So, dear colleagues and friends of the NEA, welcome. This is the second of our autumn series, second lecture. We are very pleased and happy to have with us Dr. Paschalis Androudis. Dr. Androudis is Associate Professor at the of Byzantine and Islamic Art and Archaeology at the University of Thessaloniki, head of the Department of History and Archaeology. And I would like to say a couple of things which are not relevant to the CV, but are very interesting for you. Tonight's lecture, first of all, signals an intentional follow-up to a conference that happened in 2019. Maybe some of you remember that we hosted a very large, we organized actually the three Scandinavian institutes, the Danish, the Swedish and the Norwegian, a big conference on the Vikings in the Mediterranean. And this lecture also signals something else. This is actually a collaboration that is coming up in November. Dr. Paschalis Androudis participates as an expert on the Vikings in the panel of experts at the launching event, which actually frames a memorandum signed between the Hellenic Ministry of Culture and the History and the Museum of History Cultural History in Oslo. This is going to start, it was signed in 2024, and we are going to host a closed work meeting in November 2025, and it's going to take place for 6 years. So this is a big collaboration, and we are very grateful for your help and participation. What can I say about you? I mean, just a fraction of the things you have been active on and very keen on following. Professor Androudis has a BA in architecture from the Polytechnic School in Thessaloniki, a master and PhD from France, Paris 1, Panthéon-Sorbonne, and at the same time, another master, second master in conservation studies from the University of York. During his postgraduate studies, Professor Androudis was awarded many scholarships from acclaimed institutions such as the Leventis Foundation, the Onassis Foundation, Sorbonne, the Greek State Scholarship, and more. And he has also been a very active field archaeologist. I would also like to say, from the discussion we had previously, Professor Androudis has a goal, actually to bridge cultures, countries, and to focus on the ecumenical aspect of heritage. In this respect, he has been very active on organizing conferences, participating in more than 250, has been publishing extensively, 14 books for the moment, and has been organizing a lot of online and hybrid conferences. So we are now ready and actually very eager to follow the lecture titled The Varangians in the Greek East, 10th to 12th century AD. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and for being with us.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation. And I would like to thank also Dr. Paschalis Androudis.
He was the initiator of this
lecture. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic of our presentation is the Vikings in Byzantium or in the Greek East, context from 10th to 12th century. From the mid-9th century onwards, Germanic people from Scandinavia invaded both Western and Eastern Europe, and in the West, Vikings from present-day Denmark and Norway attacked the coast of Frisia, England and Ireland, and settled permanently in France, in the region now called Normandy. In the east, Varangians from present-day Sweden invaded the Slavic lands and founded a state which quickly expanded southwards with first center is Novgorod, and later we have Kiev. The Varangians or Rus the ancestors of Russians, as they were called by Byzantine Greek sources, subdued the Slavic tribes living in this region and attacked the Khazars. Soon they reached the Black Sea coast of Bulgaria and Byzantium, as well as the Caspian Sea and Iran, partly with raids, but also as merchants. In this context, we have not only wars, but we have also osmosis of different people, cultures, and the notion of osmosis brought together people from different races and backgrounds to live together in this vast region. Apart from the representation of Vikings as warriors, we have also archaeological remnants of warships, Viking warships, representations of Viking warriors, and also some other archaeological finds in wood, mainly in wood. Also these chess pieces representing Varangians with this helmet, the triangular. My first contact with the Varangians, with the Vikings, was during my visit in Denmark around 40 years ago. So it was the first small book that I bought on Vikings, and then I visited the Museum of Viking Ships in Roskilde in Denmark. It was a very good initiation of on the subject of Vikings, and during my studies in York, I visited Jorvik Village Center. We know that Vikings invaded England, and they founded Jorvik. These are fantastic recreations in this museum, and it's very well visited. So we can have an image how people in Scandinavia live, and we have also a model of worship. The basic book on the study of Varangians of Byzantium still remained until some times. The book Varangians, the Varangians of Byzantium, of Sigbus Blondal, and was revised by Benedict. It was published in the beginning of 1980s, and then I found in France this medieval toutes les routes mènent à Byzance, all the routes are leading to Byzantium. With a very good contributions from Elizabeth Pilz and from other scholars, so it was a very good also book. And then it's a very good book on Western travelers to Constantinople, the Western Byzantium, by Krine Kigar, and there are lots of information about Varangians, how Varangians came to Byzantium, and in the beginning Varangians were Norsemen, people from Scandinavia and Rus, and afterwards they were English mercenaries and other people, and it's a very nice book with many documents. Mrs. Delia Georgiaki spoke about the proceedings of a conference which was organized, Vikings in the Mediterranean, very important book on the Viking presence in the Mediterranean, not only in the Byzantine Empire but also in the Western Mediterranean. And the recent book by the professor in the University of Reykjavik, Sverrir Jakobsson, on the Varangians in God's Holy Fire, which is mainly based on sagas, a new interpretation of the Varangian history. It's a very important book. I had the honor to translate the book in Greek. It was published by the editions, University Editions of Crete, and it's a very good initiation to Greek audience. We also have ongoing projects on the Varangians. In the recent conference, international conference on Byzantine studies in Venice and Padova, there was a session on Varangians and Scandinavians in general. So there is an ongoing project on Harald Hardrada, the most famous Viking Varangian mercenary who came to Byzantium, and Gianluca Raccani and Bergur Torgensson are leading this project. It's in collaboration with the Koç University in Istanbul, Constantinople. This map illustrates how Varangians came from these lands, from Scandinavia, and through the rivers, the Russian rivers, established the so-called route of the Varangians to the Greeks. The first known contact between the Varangians and the Greeks was in 838, when a diplomatic entourage came to Constantinople and subsequently tried to return to Sweden via Germany, as the direct way back was blocked. Shortly after, the first mentions of people with Scandinavian names appear in Greek sources, and the first Varangians were baptized. Then in 860, the Rus launched a massive attack on Constantinople with about 200 ships, but the siege of the city failed. This event left a lasting impression on the Byzantines. The following attacks on Constantinople, however, are mentioned only old Russian sources that are not always historically reliable. The famous Old Chronicle or Primary Chronicle, which was composed in the beginning of 12th century, tell us about these attacks. The attack under Prince Oleg in 907, which was followed by a trade agreement in 911, may well be a doublet of the attack in 941 under Prince Igor, which is certainly historically attested, and after which an almost identical trade agreement was concluded. In this agreement, the place of St. Mamas, which was usually been identified with the Byzantine Diplocionion. This is Constantinople, this is Agios Mamas Diplocionion, and the current day part of Istanbul, known as Besiktas, was assigned to the Varangian merchants as their quarter. They were, however, not allowed to stay there over the winter or to enter the city in groups of more than 50 persons, and the quantity of purchases permitted to them was limited. The route from Kiev to Constantinople is described in detail in the work called On the Administration of the State, the Administrando Imperio, which was compiled around 950 on the order of Byzantine Emperor Constantinos VII Porphyrogenitos. The Varangians traveled on the Dnieper River to the Black Sea in dugout canoes, wooden canoes, from single trees, monoxyla, partly through the territory of the Pechenegs, a tribe of Turkic origin, and then along the coast to Constantinople. In this text, they only mention merchandising slaves with the rare chains, but it is obvious that already in this time also furs, honey, and wax were transported to Constantinople in exchange for luxury goods as silk tissues and objects of metal and glass. These are the waterways from Scandinavia to Constantinople. A major connection between the Byzantine Empire and Nordic people was fostered through the utilization of the Eastern European river systems. These flow south through the Central Asian steppes, the Dnieper and Don into the Black Sea, and the Volga into the Caspian Sea. Although Vikings visited the rivers in the 8th century, they became major roads between the north and south in the early 9th century, when a small group of Scandinavians first sailed down them and eventually across the Black Sea to Constantinople. These were the descendants of Scandinavians who had migrated eastern the Baltic a few centuries earlier, called Ruotsi and Rus, giving the region its present-day name of Russia. There were no doubt drawn to the south for trade and opportunities for warfare. On these trade routes, there were major, I'm not going to read all this text, major establishment, had major establishment. The most important was Gnezdovo. We can see its location. From a small center, Slavic center in the 9th century, it became the most important Viking center in the region. And if I remember it, its area was around 17 acres. It's one of the biggest establishment cities in whole Europe, and there were many tumuli which were excavated, and many objects of different origins were found in these burials. After the visit of Igor's widow, Olga, to Constantinople in 946 or 957, contacts to the Byzantine Empire became closer. Olga's son, Sviatoslav, put an end to the state of the Khazars, also a state of Turkish origins. Later on, Khazars adopted Judaism. They did not adopt it, the Eastern religion, Orthodoxy or Catholicism. They adopted Judaism and led an expedition into the Balkan Peninsula in 971, but it was defeated in Bulgaria by the Emperor John I Tzimiskis and perished on the way back to Kiev. Then in 988, Sviatoslav's son Vladimir intervened in the Byzantine civil war at the request of the Emperor Basil II. After his victory, which saved the throne for Basil, Vladimir or Volodymyr was rewarded with the hand of Basil's sister Anna and converted to Christianity. The baptism of Rus is of major importance, and the establishment of their own church administration with archbishopric in Kiev began. We have the meeting between the Emperor John Tzimiskis and Sviatoslav of Kiev in this illustration of Madridis, Skilitis of the manuscript of Madrid from 12th century. We have also this exhibition catalog, which is the road from the Varangians to the Greeks, and the road from the Greeks, but there's no other end. That means that people move to several directions after the visit. Or when they took the way back, they were dispersed in several directions. It's a very important catalog. It's mainly written in Russian, but there are many important exhibits at this treasure. This hoard, silver hoard, found in Gnezdovo, the most important settlement. Among the objects that were found are silver dirhams of Arabic dirhams, Muslim coins from the Muslim Caliphate, and also other objects which are of Nordic, of Scandinavian origin. Apart from these hoards, there are also hoards with Byzantine artifacts, hoards with other artifacts of local production and from other workshops. This is the illustration of the Emperor Basil II from the Minologion written on the command of Basil II. It's during this time heavier archetypal Viking warrior was employed more permanently from the late 10th century. In fact, Basil II was the one who initiated the Varangian Guard in Constantinople, the personal guard of the emperor. These brave warriors who sacrificed their lives in order to save the emperor were not only safeguarding the emperor, but also took part in expeditions with the emperor in difficult fronts. And by the time they became a regular feature of Byzantine warfare, court and politics throughout the 11th century. The Byzantines seem to have had an ambivalent view of their fiercely exotic mercenaries. And they were known as the barbarians with axes on their soldiers. Writers as Mikhail Psyllos in the 11th century refers to the Scyths from the Taurus as a part of the palace guard in his description of revolt of 1042, a term he also uses to describe the contingent sent to the aid of Basil II in 989. According to the Princess Anna Komnene, who wrote Alexiad in favor of to praise the deeds of her father, Alexius I Komnenos, the Varangians regarded their loyalty to the emperors and their protection of the imperial persons as a pledge and ancestral tradition handed down from father to son, which they kept inviolate and will certainly not listen to even the slightest word about treachery. This notion is very important. We'll see in the lecture some representation, hypothetical representation of Varangians in Byzantine iconography, and most of them are in the scene of the betrayal of Jesus. I'm trying to find a relation about this. This is only the beginning of a hypothesis. We are only in the beginning. And this was a tradition in Anna's time. With these mercenaries came some noblemen and even future kings as mercenaries in Constantinople. And information on these exotic or fierce mercenaries come mainly from Islamic works dating from the 13th or late 14th century. And it's very important as these are the words of Sverrir Jakobsson. The Byzantine emperor, although its power was declining, was still viewed as a Christian authority who could grant pious and worthy Christians a great deal of power in the East and many richness to the people who were working for him. The Varangians were a part of Scandinavian identity, a part which was formed although a desire to become to the world of the Byzantine Empire. The Varangians were not alienated from Old Norse culture. They were bridge builders who create a simmering path towards the most noble empire in Christianity. We need to note that at that time Byzantium as well as the Arabic Caliphate were the two eyes of the world, as Matthew Canepa described. So there were the two centers of power at this time. There were two ecumenical empires, ecumenical Christian and ecumenical Islamic empires, and they were fighting each other. Constantinople, the population of Constantinople was estimated to 500,000 people, while Baghdad, the capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, the population was estimated to 700,000 or 800,000 people. From this time, mercenaries from Scandinavia and Russia took service in great numbers in the Byzantine army, or as palace guards. Skilitis is also an important witness to the continuing tradition of Scandinavians coming from the lands of the Rus to serve the Greek emperor. He relates how following the death of Anna, the sister of the emperors Basil II and Constantine VIII, and her husband Prince Vladimir, a man named Chrysochir, a relative of his, embarked with a company of 800 men and came to Constantinople, ostensibly to serve as mercenaries. However, on their arrival in Constantinople, Chrysochir and his men were unwilling to lay down their arms, and following some raids in Asia Minor, they were destroyed by the the Byzantine army. This episode demonstrates how Rus soldiers continued to come to the Byzantine Empire, although in this case the most noteworthy thing about the episode was its failure. Several Scandinavian and Russian princes earned money as soldiers in Byzantium before ascending to this throne, among them in 1034, 1042, Harald Sigurdsson, Hardrada of Norway. This person was the most famous of all Varangians. He died in 1066. He was half-brother to St. Olaf and a refugee from Norway after the latter's failed attempt to regain power in 1030. After serving Grand Prince Yaroslav, he came to Constantinople in 1033 or 1034 with a following on experienced warriors and served nearly a decade in various military functions. The Nordic sagas place him in the Aegean, an expedition to Jerusalem, and in Bulgaria and Sicily with Byzantine expeditionary armies with numerous tall tales and daring deeds ascribed to him. At least the outline of his career is partly confirmed by the Byzantine general and author Kekavmenos, and this indeed his association with court politics and involvement in the overthrow and blinding of the Emperor Mikhail V Kalafatis is plausible in light of Kekamenos' remark that he received the court titles of Manglavitis and Sparokardidatos, which titles were associated with imperial bodyguards. And this is a coin struck while he was king of Norway. After this, we have also other Norwegian mercenaries as Norwegian King Sigurd and visitors, Norwegian King Sigurd Jorsalfare. I'm sorry about the pronunciation, I don't know if it's the right pronunciation. Left his fleet and a large contingent of men in imperial service at Constantinople after going on a crusade. A new development, however, was the appearance of English nobles and their followers who were disposed by William the Conqueror and who served under Alexios Komnenos. After the Scandinavian mercenaries, we had the introduction of other mercenaries. In the beginning, there were English mercenaries, and afterwards there were Northern, let's say, mercenaries. All these were considered, they were described as Varangians. So with this title, after the 11th, 12th century, you have all these people from Western Europe and northern countries came to serve Byzantine emperors. In the street of Constantinople, which was the biggest city of the empire, people from Europe and Islamic world met with people from Scandinavia and the Kievan Rus. It was a place where people traded with luxury goods like silk, and where coins were struck and exchanged that ended up in distant lands and halls. The city was surrounded by water on three sides and had harbors both to the south towards the Sea of Marmara and in the north towards the so-called Golden Horn, a wide inlet from the Bosporus. And along the Golden Horn they were later installed the Western settlers and traders, mainly Italians. They formed the Latin part of the city. To Scandinavians, Constantinople became known as Miklegard, which can be roughly translated as plentiful courts or simply as great city. Constantinople, the new Rome, was not only the biggest and the richest Christian city in the world, but also it has the title of New Jerusalem because it was full of holy relics, which was preserved from many centuries, relics of the Old and New Testament, and relics of martyrs and saints. So it was a place of visit for pilgrims, especially these roads of pilgrimage were enforced during the age of Crusades, when Jerusalem was liberated, let's say, from Islamic control, and then Constantinople gained a very important role on these routes of pilgrimage. And we have a very important account of all these treasures, Christian treasures, who were kept in Constantinople by Antonius of Novgorod. We have sagas speaking on Varangians of Constantinople, like Henskringla, a compilation of lives of Norwegian kings, written about 1225 by Snorri Sturluson, and gold mine of information, even if part of its context is based on oral sources. The oldest Varangian church in Constantinople, we have evidence on the presence of Varangian churches, was dedicated to the Virgin of the Varangians, Virgin Varangiotissa, and it was probably the one that was built by the Emperor Ioannis II Komnenos after his victory in the Battle of Veroi. According to the Norse tradition, King Olaf's sword, Hnetir, was kept there as a relic, as we have the direct testimony of Henry the Young for this, as recorded by Einar Skulason in this Geisli. We have the last mention of this church, but not anymore as a Varangian guard chapel, in 1361 in a synodical letter. And the last Varangian church of Constantinople was dedicated to Saint Nicholas and Saint Augustine of Canterbury, because we have the presence of English mercenaries, so we have a double dedication to the church. We must note that Varangian regiments were scattered over the Byzantine Empire. For instance, we have mentions of the present southern Italy. At Bari, the Varangians had for their use the Church of St. Nicholas of the Greeks, built by the Emperor Romanos Argyros in the 11th century. Also a part of the port of Bari was known as the Varangian Water, Mare dei Guarenghi. Church near Taranto had the dedication of Santa Maria dei Guarenghi, like the oldest Varangian church in Constantinople. And if we are seeking for this information, we can find much of this information. And Scandinavians who are mentioned in the sources, mainly Sagas in Greek lands, the Varangian warlords and captains of Nordic mercenaries, Sverker, prince from Norway, beginning of 10th century, Chris Semmingson from Norway in the 1970s, Boli Bolason from Iceland, 1020s or 1030s, Harald Hardrada or Harald Sigurdsson from Norway, Eidir Bjarnason and Borget Orstarsson from Iceland. Sorry for this mislecture of the names. Harald Sigurdsson, the list of his expedition: Eastern Asia Minor, Upper Mesopotamia in border wars, the Aegean Sea against pirates in Fatimid Palestine, where Harald took part to a pilgrimage diplomatic mission forced against banditry. It was probably involved in the reconstruction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Sicily and the Byzantine attempt to recover the island. In the beginning it was victorious, but afterwards it was failed by the recall of Georgios Maniakis, Apulia, against the earliest stages of the Norman conquest of southern Italy, the Balkans, against Bulgarian uprising. And we have also representation of this expedition in Italy by Ioannis Kilitzis, and a coin of Harald as the sole Norwegian king. You see the legend, and it's the representation of Harald's wife, Elisive of Kiev, daughter of Yaroslav the Wise. The ongoing project on the biography of Harald, and apart from these faithful Varangians to the emperor and the empire, we have some incidents like the one of according to Skilitzis, there were some Varangians dispersed in the theme of Thracian, and one of them, coming across a woman on the region, put the quality of the virtue to the test. When persuasion failed, he resorted to violence, but she seized his Persian-type sword. In this representation, it's not a sword. Stuck him in the heart and killed him. And when the deed became known in the surrounding area, the Varangians held an assembly and crowned the woman, presenting her with all the possessions of the violator, they threw aside and buried according to the law concerning suicide. So they had their own code of ethics, and they applied in this incident. On the archaeological testimonies of this present, we have runic inscriptions, also preserved in Eastern Mediterranean, as one of the famous Piraeus lion, and the balustrade of the Hagia Sophia. And these inscriptions are assumed to have been carved by members of the Varangian troops, and such graffiti tell fragments of stories that can be only partially reconstructed. While sources, we have the information coming from Icelandic sagas, and Morkinskinna, the medieval saga, relates how the Norwegian king Sigurd your Sulfur visits Constantinople and places the finely carved dragon head from the ship's prow on the church of the city. Sigurd also gives the emperor Kyrialax, Alexius I Komnenos, and his ships as a parting gift, and the saga mentions that the dragon head on Sigurd's ship has been clad in valor. And these gifts of carved dragon heads indicate the importance of this ornamentation in Norse culture. Material testimonies. Some of the traces that the Vikings left behind shed light upon their travels in the world. The most distinctive image of graffiti is in the south gallery of the Church of Hagia Sophia, scratched onto the northwestern column. Beginning from this graffiti, we have this the runic inscription, was first discovered in 1964 on a parapet of the southern gallery of Hagia Sophia. The inscription is worn down, so nowadays only Htan, which is the Norse name, Halfdan, is legible. We have the first publication of this inscription, and this is testifying about the presence of Varangians as imperial guards, since they were attending the liturgy together with the emperor from the tribunes of Hagia Sophia. We have graffito ship. This is a part of the research on graffiti in Hagia Sophia by a Bulgarian scholar. He discovered these graffitis, and he associated them, this graffiti, with a dragon's head, this warship, as he identified as Viking ship. Next to this graffito is another one which depicts the stem of 3 ships. It's by Professor Thomas Tomov. He describe this carving as the stems of three ships, and we have analogous stems on this brigand stick, which was found in Norway. Here they are more visible, these dragon hands of these ships. The third graffito is in the western end. It's also a warrior ship with not much detail. We have also another ship from the research of Thomas Tomov, and we have another graffito showing a sketch of a typical Scandinavian house according to Thomas Tomov. Apart from this graffiti, we have whole sorts from Bulgarian villages of Paka and Gradesnica, and the pommel with a guard. Third, from the Romanian island of the Danube, Pacuilu Soare. There are also important works of scholars on the so-called Varangian types of swords found in excavations in the Balkans, and also their representation, the eventual representation. We have also these sword sleeve tips discovered in northwestern Bulgaria. Bulgaria was always a field of great battles, not hazardous, that we can find many weapons in many parts of the present-day Bulgaria. It was the place with battlefields. And also from these Varangian swords from northeastern Bulgaria, we have also this the representation of Varangians in the Madrid Skilitis, axe-wielding Varangians on the back. In the Hippodrome of Constantinople, this is the body of the Emperor Leon V. Also in the Catholicon of Nea Moni in Chios, the soldiers who are led by Judas to arrest Jesus are axe-wielding Varangians, mostly with blonde hair. They are not wearing the typical uniform of soldiers as it appears in warriors in statues and other objects of Byzantine culture, but they are dressed as the first military saints of the early Christian period. All scholars agree that this type of representation, these guards or soldiers, are considered as Varangians. The Catholic of Nea Moni of Chios was built before the mid of 11th century and was built from an architect and a workshop that came from Constantinople. And there are some comparisons with Varangian battle axes found in present-day Bulgaria, with the type of axes that they are represented there. Also, the team who is working on the presence of Varangians in Byzantine lands discovered this fresco. It's the betrayal of Christ in the church of Agios Ioannis and John Chrysostom in Aravissos, Cappadocia, and Cappadocia in Turkey. And these soldiers are considered to be Varangians. They're holding these axes. The lion of Piraeus. I'm sorry, but in this I have in this the other PowerPoint. I had some pictures that were sent to me by Nikos Zellinikolas 1 hour before this lecture. He discovered representation of Varangians, possibly Varangians, in wall mosaics of the Catholicon of Daphne near Athens. So in the scenes of the betrayal of Christ, together in this, we found this always in this scene, and also in the entry to Jerusalem, they are men who have long mustache. They're unconventionally represented, not as the typical Byzantine manner, but they're represented differently. And tomorrow, hopefully, we'll go visit a place and see and discuss on this discovery. This discovery is very important because Daphne was dated to the late 11th century, but now there is a hypothesis. There are strong arguments on the dating of the attribution of this important complex at the time of the Basil II, when he visited Attica, and he was established there camp, and possibly Daphne was built over this military camp. So it's a church of the octagon type, the same type with the church, the Catholicon of the monastery of Osios Lucas. It dates from the time of Basil. It shows the strong affiliation of Basil II, the Emperor Basil II, with the Varangians. Passing to the Lion of Venice, we have the statue made of white Pentelic marble, 360 before Christ, 3 meters high. It was originally located in Piraeus harbor. Because of this, the presence of this lion, Piraeus was called Porto Leone, and unfortunately it was stolen by Francesco Morosini in 1687. It was the one who also destroyed Parthenon, and copies of the statue can also be seen in the Piraeus Archaeological Museum and the Swedish History Museum in Stockholm. The basis of this, with the inscription which was carved with the order of this. In fact, this is a poem of Morosini on his deeds to take the lion from Piraeus and put it there in front of the arsenal of Venice. Together with this lion, we have these 3 lions, also Greek lions, taken also from Athens, from Delos, and there are also inscriptions on the basis of these lions. Passing to the lion of Piraeus, we have runic inscriptions carved in this part on the shoulders of the lion. This was carved possibly in the second half of the 11th century. The runes are carved in the shape of elaborate lindworm dragon head scroll, this type of scroll, and in much the same style as on stones in Scandinavia. We have the text on the right side of the lion. Asmund cut these runes with Esgir and Thor, Thor and Ivar at the great request of Harald the Tall, though the Greeks considered about and forbade it. This is a lecture, and this is the part where the runic inscription was carved. And in the other part, we have this inscription, this photograph, although it was taken close, it's not clear, but we have this from a copy of in the Museum of Stockholm. We have this, and together with color, we have the text, and also inform us about some names. There's another reading of this text, which seems it's considered to be the most successful one. The warriors cut runes, hewed them in an ornamental scroll, and the names are mentioned and colored them in memory of Horsey. He won gold in his travels. So it's the essential of the presence of Vikings and Varangians in the Mediterranean and Byzantium is to gain gold and wealth. This is an unexpected find of a bronze pendant with the motif of Ouroboros. It's the creature that eats its own tail, found in excavations in the site known as Bathonea, near region, the present-day Küçük Çekmece, in the vicinity 50 kilometers from Constantinople to the west of Constantinople, present-day Istanbul, and probably it belonged to a Varangian guard. This is a site with a hospital that was uncovered, and together with other installations. And the type of swords, a typical Viking swords, found it, and their representation in details of illustration like the one of Skylitzis. From the Greeks to the Varangians and the Rus, the other way back, the Byzantine Empire did not merely exert influence on the male sphere. Female customs also show traces of such inspiration. We have evidence on the presence of Byzantine artifacts together with golden coins and other Byzantine artifacts found in, not only in the present-day Russia, but also in Scandinavia. And the results of such contacts were not merely the import of foreign objects, but also an intellectual influence that left deep traces in ancient Scandinavic society. This is mainly seen among the aristocracy of the time, but in different ways it impacts the entire ancient Scandinavian society. This is a hoard of coins, the treasure from Oxarve in Hemse, which contains 123 Byzantine coins representing various emperors from Gotland's museum. This is a hoard of more ancient coins, golden coins, from such treasures were imported in Scandinavia in 5th and 6th century. This is a unique find. This is a small, very small coin, golden coin from 11th century, but it was discovered in Sweden. And also we have other typical Byzantine artifacts in Nordic, in museums in Scandinavia, like the so-called Dagmar crucifix from a museum in Copenhagen. The northerners would travel to Constantinople and other faraway places, brought back not only coins and luxury objects, but also stories of both imagined characters and lived experiences, most often with no clear boundary between the two. Some stories were commemorated on rune stones, recording in a stenographic manner of destinies of men who travel far and return home with great fortune. Some of them died abroad, and we have much evidence on people who went to Greece. At that time, Byzantine Empire is not mentioned as Byzantine or Roman Empire. Anyone who traveled in the Byzantine Empire is mentioned like as traveling in Greece. We have many such stories, and we have the so-called Greece rune stones, Greklak Sternana, about 30 rune stones containing information related to voyages made by Norsemen to the Byzantine Empire. Where Greece is called Greekland, the land of the Greeks, and appears in 3 inscriptions. The word Greeklar, Greeks, appear in 25 inscriptions. 2 stones refer to men as Greek Fari, traveler to Greece, and 1 stone refers to Greek Hafnir, Greek harbors. Among other rune stones which refer to expeditions abroad, the only groups which are comparable in number are the so-called England rune stones that mention expeditions to England, and then 26 Ingvar rune stones that refer to Viking expeditions to the Middle East. We have some photos of these stones, and we have the translation of these landmarks are made in memory of Inga's son. He came to inherit from them, but these brothers, Gerdar and his brothers, came to inherit from her. They died in Greece, so they died while fighting, possibly fighting for the Byzantine emperor. we could possibly assume that some of them were settled permanently in Greece, but we don't have any such evidence. Postein let make the landmark after Svein, his father, and his brother. They went out to Greece, and after Ingiora, his mother, Eper carved. We have also the name of the carver. These runestones are full of information. These runes were carved in the order of Rakvaz. He was in Greece, was commander of the retinue of the Varangian Guard. So we have the name of the commander of the Varangian Guard. These are very important, and we see the carving and the presence of the color, usually red. He perished abroad in Greece. Some assume that these are sort of they were made in order to show how fortunes were inherited by descendants of the dead people, the ones who perished abroad. There are many considerations about these runestones. We have also the presence of the Byzantine or Byzantinizing frescoes, especially in Sweden. In Gotland, there are churches that externally are built as Scandinavian churches with all the typical features, but internally they have decoration of frescoes, and there are also wooden artifacts, wooden planks, which once were decorating the interior of wooden churches that were dismantled afterwards. The comment of Ivana Yeftis, it's an explanation about how local iconography in Scandinavia was influenced by Byzantine iconography, and there are indirectly by iconography of the Russian churches of this time. We have the names of churches. Garda and Kalunge and Gotland are known to few specialists who have the choice of palettes, Nordic and Romanesque practices. We have a mixture of elements of local, Scandinavian and Oriental origin. From Garda Church is a medieval Lutheran or church on Gotland. A large Swedish island built on top of a much older church, and we see the typical Scandinavian feature, which in the interior we have this typical Byzantine decoration. This is wooden soffit of the churches of typical of local construction, but these frescoes are typical of 12th century. We can find many affinities with frescoes in Novgorod and in northern Russia, and there are isolated martyrs. You can see the martyrs, and these motifs, decorative motifs, are purely Byzantine with these bands and all these the typical cross of Byzantine cross of 11th, 12th century. We have other specimens of parts of preserved frescoes, and as you can see, they present many affinities with frescoes in St. George Church in Staraya Ladoga in present-day Russia. The colors are more vivid, and we have together the presence of this typical Byzantine decoration together with elements which are of Nordic decoration, like these bands. And we have also the painted wooden boards. They are preserved in the Swedish History Museum from Eke Church, Gotland. It's oak wood, and it's attributed to the first half of 12th century. And these are from a paper by Italian scholar Elena De Zordi, who wrote an article about these wooden decorated planks on Scandinavia. Many of these features, especially these features, could be considered as Byzantine. We can also find such traits of the face, even in the frescoes of the Saint Sophia in Kiev. We have this Byzantinizing decoration frescoes, and this shows the clear influence not only by Byzantium but also by the Russian churches. To conclude, this is a result by the research of what was left by the Varangians, by the Professor Sverrir Jakobsson. The Varangians were an elusive group of people. For a period of 3 or 4 centuries, they existed, and then they were gone. Varangians are mentioned in Constantinople even in 14th century, but without whether these were Scandinavians or people from England and other or Normans of other ancestry. And they were gone seemingly without a trace. They became a part of the memory of people in various European countries and cultures, a memory that progressively was shaped by the rules and requirements of its own meta-narrative. The Varangians did not leave behind any modern institutions, and very little material remains can trace back to them. Possibly you can find some more elements in archaeological remains. Their survival was due to replacing a narrative which can be called the Varangian legend, and this Varangian legend was enforced by saga. The Icelandic sagas create a sort of legend of this famous Varangian, and also we can find objects in Byzantine art with the name Varangopoulos or to Varangopoulou. That means there were some descendants of the Varangians were Hellenized, became Orthodox, and were integrated in Byzantine society. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this extremely informative lecture, full of material evidence. Questions, comments?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much for this presentation. If I'm not wrong, Nikitas Phonetes mentioned in his chronicle during the events of the Fourth Crusade the presence of Varangians in the imperial palace. But do we have clues of the presence of the Varangians during the Latin rule in Constantinople, during the Franco-Cratia?
I don't know whether there were Varangians, let's say Scandinavians, with the typical were the typical Scandinavians, or whether there were Englishmen or other people or Norman mercenaries. Because it seems that at the end of 12th century there were no more Scandinavians serving for the emperor, and I believe, as far as I remember from the book by Krinie Kigar, there are not mentioned any more Varangians, Scandinavians as imperial guard. There are mentioned Scandinavians who came as pilgrims, and also there are mentioned Scandinavians who composed sort of guide of Constantinople at the time, and the guide of holy relics and the shrines of Constantinople, what is, was worthing to visit in Constantinople. We have this sort of, let's say, the holy tourism in Constantinople, and this was also made by Nordic people. Possibly they were not serving anymore as imperial guard.
Okay, so
Because money was not that much at that time. The economic situation of the empire declined. In the 1180s, we have a big decline of, after the death of Manuel the First Komnenos, we have a rapid decline of the Byzantine Empire.
okay, so the Byzantine emperors abandoned this tradition of having these Varangian guards around them.
There was still a Varangian guard, but at that time Varangians were also Englishmen. I believe that they were Englishmen or Norman.
No more Sweden.
No more Sweden.
Scandinavian. Okay, and we don't know if the Franks perpetuated this tradition.
No, they were not involved. It seems that the Varangians were established a different type of civilization. They were no more fighting, and they were possibly established big cities. And the situation is different from 10th and 11th century. But as far as they served the Byzantine emperor, they were the most important, the most contingent of the Byzantine army. They were famous for the faith and for the deeds, the extraordinary deeds, and their efficiency as soldiers. So this created, together with the sagas, the legend of the Varangians. But that's what is very Jackson supports in his book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for the presentation. I was wondering, in the Empire of Nicaea, I heard that there were some Varangians who were serving as in ceremonial duties, as well as I remember. Do you know anything about that?
Yes.
Or do we also see same thing in other?
Possibly they are mentioned as Varangians, but we don't know their ethnic origin. And we also have evidence on the presence of Varangians in the island of Cyprus. And we have also Norsemen who are related to crusades. So Norsemen also participated in the crusades, but we don't know whether they were Varangians or people who participated in the crusades. So I think we are only in the beginning of this research. But unfortunately, there were not people of culture or people who left sources for their study. So they were mainly fighters, and they described not only by Byzantine, but also from Nordic sources, and also from in the beginning from Arabic sources and other sources. We have many directions, but for instance, the early Varangians who were identified with the Rus are described as very notorious people, having no respect for others' life, and also when they had sexual affairs, they were described by Ibn Fadlan, writer of 10th or 11th century, as the most worst creatures in the world. So
yeah, I was also wondering about their weapon. Their axe was called as rompalia, as far as I know. Was it double-edged axe?
Double-edged axe, but we have discoveries in present-day Bulgaria, but they were not very sharp. They were very tiny. The two edges, they're very separated, the one from the other side, as you can see. This is the typical. Many of these axes were founded in Bulgaria, also in this route from the Varangians to the Greeks. In the present-day Russia and Ukraine, there are many weapons of that style that were found and they considered to be Varangian. Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. I would like to pose two questions. First, how do you account for the fact that the Varangians themselves in their runes, inscriptions in runic alphabet, they persistently call the Byzantine Greeks or Romei, they call them Greeks and Greekland. And second, what do we know about the possible involvement of this contingent in the defense lines of Byzantium during the collapse of the end of the 11th, 10th century, where the Seljuks made pervasions and inroads, etc.
There is also we can find explanations for both. Can you repeat the first question, please?
Why do they call the Romei?
For my opinion, the reason is one and single, because they were far apart from the schism, from Western Europe and Central Europe, from the Greek. So they were not at that time part of Catholic West. So they were not much interfere in these polemics against the Byzantine Empire. So Contra Errores Graecorum, who was founded in 7th, 8th, 9th centuries, the main doctrine of the Catholic Church, the leaders of the Catholic Church, was not applied to them. They were not Christianized in the beginning. They were barbarians. They were not baptized, and so they were far apart from this.
Yes. So why do they?
So they
official
were
name?
going to the place where Greek language was spoken. The majority of population of Byzantium was Greek or Hellenized at that time. Was very far Hellenized. Certainly there were other people, other races living in Byzantium. It's like present-day France or England. The main population is English or French. We have also minorities, other migrants, and so on. So they were going to the land of the Greeks. That's why they called.
We gather the inference that the people established in Byzantium were calling themselves Greeks.
In fact, Roman West never accepted the use of Roman by the Greek emperor. So Romans to the Byzantine Empire was the defense of their ancestry, the Roman law, the Roman inheritance, together with the Greek language. So the fact is very, and also we have Byzantine Empire was called Greece from in
Regnum Graecorum.
Separately.
So it is a grey zone.
Yes.
And the other question?
The other question, in fact, as we can see, they were heavily equipped warriors with these helmets and the axes and so on. So they were not easy to fight in battles where the enemy was attacking with horses, bows, horses. It was more flexible.
They were not riders.
They were not riders, but they were very heavy and very slow on the move. We have, for instance, the Battle of Myriokephalon. There is evidence about the participation of Varangians in the Battle of Myriokephalon, where the big convoy of the Byzantine army, a very big convoy of the Byzantine army, in 1176, went in the valley in Myriokephalon, and then the archers, Seljuk archers, annihilated the whole convoy from the upper parts of the valley. It was very easy to have this sort of defeat. So they were no more for this type of war.
Okay,
I believe. It's a personal belief.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Any more questions, comments?
Yes, Maria.
About the subject, what do you think about Sofito, which is now kept in Reykjavik Museum?
I know there is a Sofito. There is a student from our university who made who presented a paper on this. I haven't seen it, but I know there is.
Yes, they have two Sofitos. One is very Romanesque,
Yes,
and the other is very Byzantine with the Last Judgment.
yes. Thank you very much. I'll try to take some, to have some photos from our students.
Okay, I have some,
Oh,
because I went there.
thank you. But I believe that the discovery of Mr. Nicholas in Daphne is very important. We have the presence, but they are not represented as in Neamoni of Chios in Daphne. But could possibly see the PowerPoint. Can we see the PowerPoint? Is a possibility? Yes. Yes, if are there any other questions? Yes.
Or we can, no.
On one of the images of the frescoes, I think one character is wearing an imperial
Yes.
mantle. Is that?
Yes.
Okay, like the Basileus.
Marielle is more expert on basilius and representation and textiles. She also studied textiles represented in the Minologion of Basilius. There is a photographic representation of the textiles presented as they were.
And after this comment, we can continue with a glass of wine and some snacks, and the conversation can definitely go on.
This is the possible representation.
Normal. Oh, okay.
No. This is a possible. It's arrows by Nikos Nicholas. We can see the figure with a mustache. These are typical, they are foreigners, are not typical Byzantine of how they represented. Possibly we recognize a Varangian of Scandinavia, or possibly Russian origin, because at that time Varangians were together Scandinavian or Rus in the beginning. So these three people, and we'll try to see the detail. Ναι. Θα δούμε το πρόσωπο. This is very unusual. This mustache, a very big mustache, is very unusual in Byzantine iconography. It's very strange. And if he's a Varangian, it can be he can be our Varangians. They can be associated with Basil II.
So thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking it over. We look forward to the next time, to November,
Thank
to
you
your
very much.
presentation then. And let's have a glass of wine and some more.